All right. I have been playing BDO for a decent amount of time now. When the original free Dream Horse came out, the one that you had to like log in within a certain amount of time to get, that's when I came back to the game. There's a lot of really good changes that made the game not just like more fun but playable. The Magnus, uh, pretty much everything to do with the Magnus, the teleporting and the grabbing your stuff from any storage. That was a massive quality of life. There's still a few things, even when I came back, that they wish they'd fixed. Pets, fairies, tent. I don't think that's a good introduction for new players into the game. That's kind of a big barrier you have to get through, even if they do give out a few more pets now. But I'm not really here to talk about my experience as a new player so much as some of the things that I've been hearing about the game. And it seems like I have a unique take on it because of how long I've been playing and what I have and like what my actual goals are in the game. So I thought that I would kind of make a video about some of the issues people are talking about and just give my opinion, hopefully some insight. Don't expect any changes to be made that align with anything that I say, but I think that some of the ideas are pretty good, and some of the things that people are complaining about are ridiculous, to put it nicely. So I'll start with PvP, and we'll briefly touch on life. It's kind of irrelevant. It always really has been. And then we'll go to PvE at the end. So for PvP, the node war problem is a problem. I'm not going to try to like sugarcoat that. I haven't been node warring for 7 years, so I'm not going to sit here and try to like validate to players who have been node warring for 7 years and now hate it that the changes are fine. I don't mind the changes too much, especially when they first came out. It was really fun, but I understand where they're coming from. So that needs to be updated. I'm not going to speak on that too much. Siege is kind of suffering from node wars dying, so that's dying too. But the reality is, from what I've seen the entire time I played this game, Siege has kind of been dead at the level that it used to be. There's nobody trying to fight big fights or trying to make a come up and take over as the most powerful. Cho, people are saying, oh, Cho died and now Digi's number one. The reality is Cho wouldn't fight Digi for like God knows how long. It was just a stalemate of egos, and I think it's kind of a community issue in some part on that. I hear a lot of I want to be gifted this node, or like let me just do this. Let me get a tag on this so we get participation. People kind of cry about stuff like that, and I don't think that people are remembering at least the stories that I've heard about like Man Up holding a castle for a year, and it took 6 guilds banding together to nuke them down. So I don't think that's like a new problem. One guild being the strongest, but it seems like the community has kind of given up on trying to be better than them. They just kind of want to go in, get their rewards, and get out, rather than actually try to be a better guild than the people they're fighting. And maybe that's like a consequence of some of the other changes that we've been seeing, kind of led people to that. So for Siege and Node War and Guild League and open world PvP, I think there's one major fix that could at least fix the population issue in those, and that's just going to be Immortals should be cheap. They should be really, really, really cheap. There's no reason I should have to pay 50 mil a life for 4 hours and then get a 250 mil payout from Siege. Now, I know Sieges don't realistically last 4 hours, but like that's crazy. There's no reason I would want to go to Siege and lose that much money when I'm trying to get gear to get to the point where I'm on par with these other people. So I think Immortals being cheap fixes that issue, the participation issue, in a way that doesn't allow AFK, like people that just abuse the system, to get more money. They don't have to increase the drops. And it also doesn't really hurt alchemists. You can't really reasonably get these things anyways. Let's be realistic here. You get what, 10 remnants a month if you're lucky. It's just not something that's feasible to make a lot of money doing, even if the alch profit per hour is really good right now. So I wouldn't worry too much about hurting them, because they get to do this like once a year. They get 100 crafts because of all the stuff they saved up. And I think that would just make it to where people aren't making a lot of money from Node War, but they're not losing a lot of money to participate in it either. AOS and the Guild League have to be year-round, period. There's no reason that we should just have 6 months at a time where you can't play ranked AOS. And when they have this year-round AOS and Guild League, there needs to be rewards, not just for being the number one player on your class, but for being in any rank. At each rank, you should get another reward, like World of Warcraft has done for all of time, where you get different outfits, different rewards based on the rating that you've earned. And then you can go off and show, you know, back in season 2, I was a gladiator. Here's my gladiator mount. And that actually means something, rather than giving the same AOS outfit or weapon. I don't know. I've never got it. I play ninja, and I'm not taking number 1 from Armin. Let's be realistic here. So there needs to just be rewards for more people to incentivize them to actually like queue it like a real rank system and grind it out, rather than just queuing in to have some fun every once in a while. And then RBF is dead content. Let's be honest. You queue into that, you test some builds, and it's really memes at this point. They're not going to bring back RBF from the dead. So as far as PvP, I think it's partially a community issue. They need to fix Node Wars. They need to make Immortals cheap, and they need to make queuable PvP year-round to grind for ranks. World of Warcraft would not still be here if you could only queue into Arena for like 3 to 6 months out of the year. It would not still be a thing. And I don't want to hear about practice mode. I'm sorry, that shit is not what PvP is about. Life skilling has kind of been cooked from the get-go of this game, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. I think life skillers have finally reached that point where they like have everything and they're looking for the next thing. And I don't really know how to solve that, because this game doesn't require you to have levels or anything like that to actually like cook a food. You don't have to be, you know, guru cooking to make a Valencia meal or a cron. You can just do it. I think maybe some new food could bring some life into cooking again. They've done a little bit with Alch, but I haven't done too much of it. It's if you're making harmonies right now, thank you for your service, because that shit is a mess. Like, it's just too many things into it. And then fishing is fishing. It's always going to be fishing. Training is training. It's just for dream horses. And then sailing, you guys can make a video about that shit. I'm not talking about it. I don't sail. So life skill is just kind of cooked. I don't have any ideas for like what the next step is for life skilling, because, you know, what do you gain from getting more mastery, more levels? It's really not that beneficial. Maybe you make some extra money from like turn-ins, but we all know they're going to minimize the amount of silver you make passively like that, because then they wouldn't have to sell value packs, right? PvE is in an interesting state. I think this is where I have the most like room to talk, which is why I saved it for last. I have maybe a unique outlook because I exclusively grind for the merchant ring. So I pretty much always have, something left to do. And by something, I mean another 500 hours of Olins. But the reality is, if you're not grinding for a merchant ring, you have a lot more diversity in where you can go to grind. If you're hard cap right now and you're not at Dolan 2, you're kind of trolling. But beyond that, you can pretty much go anywhere. There's a lot of players that have devoted their life to this game. They play it for 10 hours a day for 6 years. When new content drops, they have deck on day one, and then they're like, Pearl Abyss, there's nothing to do. They can't make content fast enough for you to do this as a job and have a population of players, because most people, especially MMO players, have jobs, right? It's the unfortunate reality that we live in, but you can't design a game where the only way to keep up is to play 10 hours a day for 8 years. And that's kind of what they're trying to fix right now, because it's not, as much as people say it's, BDO is a pay to win game, it's not realistic to pay to win to hard cap unless you are loaded. Like, you have to have a ton of money. It's like $30 for an hour of your time, and most people don't make $30 an hour, right? Let alone are they willing to spend it on the game. When you're first starting, you're a new player, it's more worth it to buy things. But once you're getting to the point where you're clicking pen demos and things like that, like, am I really gonna spend $120 to click for pen? Like, that's just not gonna happen. I'm just gonna grind out some silver. So when you have these players that, play for 10 hours a day and they've been doing it for a long time, you can't develop content faster than they consume it. And the solution to that problem, it is a problem in and of itself, and we should be thankful that we have the ability to burn through content like that, because other games like Lost Ark, they don't make extra content. They just time gate the shit out of you to where you can't do it until they want you to, right? I think that if you try to make it to where you have more stuff to do, you can either create such a gap between new players and players that have been playing for 10,000 hours that it discourages new players, which it's already a large gap. It's just, the deck is massive in and of itself. If you add more to that gap, new players will not reach Uncapped Siege. They won't be able to compete in Guild League. It's just the reality. So you got to kind of take that into account when you're developing new content and how far you want to go as far as pushing it to the next level. Because you don't want to time gate people, and you don't want to make it so overwhelmingly better that other people have no reason to play the game. Dekia 2 is a reward for the players that are hard capped. You go there, you make twice as much money as everybody else. I don't see a problem with it. I think it's actually really cool. You can get to this point, and then it's not hard. You just kind of coast, but you get rewarded for what you've done. I think it's interesting to keep the artifacts to that point, where you can only get them if you're hard capped. Essentially, you don't quite have to be hard capped. I'll show you my gear here. But the reality is, players with less gear that just want a PvP, like, that sucks. That sucks for them. There's no other way to look at it. Like, they don't want to grind 3, 4, 5,000 hours to get all of this gear. They want a PvP. So it kind of sucks that you have to grind 400 hours of a hard cap spot to get the best in slot artifact, but it is what it is. A lot of people complain about these accessories right here. And to be honest, I think that most of them are bad at the game. Maybe not even bad at the game, but bad at progression. I think if you were grinding Gyphon Underground for 300 hours and then you're complaining about like, oh, Devos are so impossible to get, like, that's your fault. You should have just grinded the Devos. I don't know what to tell you. I went straight to Ash the second I could, but it was for the merchant ring. But you know, if you're not grinding for Devos at that time and you could, you were trolling, like actually trolling. You could go to Crypt and make 5 bill an hour. So it's not unreasonable that they've sank in price. But my main reason for bringing up the Devos is because people say that it kills build diversity, which is blatantly untrue. Accuracy accessories, narcs, these things are still just as valuable as they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. Not literally just as valuable, because the value of silver has degraded because we kill stuff so much faster, we get so much more loot, we have better drop rate, these types of things. But having these accuracy accessories in your build, an evasion off and centaur belt, it's not just better, like it's necessary. If you try to fight me with 6 Devos or this setup and I have a Tad Shuriken on, you won't hit me, period. So I think that the Devos have allowed for more creative build diversity because they've allowed you to hit certain caps that if you don't hit, you just can't kill people, period. So I think the Devos are really good for PvP build diversity. And if you're crying about PvE build diversity, I have bad news for you, but that shit was never a thing. It's never been a thing. If you think that a Leighton is different from an Ogre ring, you're fucking faded. Like, I don't understand that take. We had one spot that you had to use accuracy for, and people cried so much that they changed it. So build diversity's never been a thing. If you think getting Tungrad rings instead of crescents for 1 more AP is relevant, you're faded. Like, that's just a bad take objectively. You still use an arc in your build. You've never used a Dawn. You've never used an Ominous ring. It's just the reality. Unless you played like Sork, but all of the Sork players were pissed that they had to use accuracy accessories for no fucking reason. So I don't think that Devos are killing build variety. I think that it's the opposite. I think that PvE is the exact same scenario. You just get your accessory. Whether or not you have a fucking Disto or a Dawn is irrelevant. It's the same thing. I hate to break it to you. And if you weren't getting Devos and you were getting Tungrads while Devos were in the game, what do you want me to say, bro? You fucked up. You're grinding for a worse than slot accessory. Lock the fuck in. And then my last point on PvE, or kind of the arguments about it, is people are upset that their gear is devaluing. My first counterpoint to this is, have you ever played World of Warcraft? Like, that game, you play a season, you go do the raids, and then you log in 3 weeks later, and the best in slot mythic weapon that you grinded the entire 3 months to finally get the drop for is now worse than the blue weapon from the new expansion. Not even the new expansion, the new season to the expansion, not even like a full cycle. Like 3 months later, your weapon is ass. So devaluation of gear is a problem in every game and will be a problem in every game. And it's been a problem in BDO before this. You know, the fact that Debos are sinking, unless you're a little bit better than what I have, unless you're full pen, you have zero reason to be crying about it. You should be fucking dancing in the streets that you can get Debos on the market for 150 bill for a fucking earring, because people were grinding 500 hours buying 12k crons at a time when you couldn't buy outfits to try to enhance Debos. Like, I don't understand how we're complaining. You can literally buy accessories straight from the market and raw click them to pen, and it's more efficient than cronning. Like, that's ideal if you don't have everything. And if you do have everything and you're complaining, stop complaining, bro. You've played this game at hard cap for fucking 8, 10, however long you've been hard capped. You've been that much better than the entire rest of the game. Like, that's what you paid for. If you fucking get the first Debo ring or Debo neck on the market, it's gonna devalue. That's just how it works. When the Scythe dropped in OSRS, it was like, it sold for max cash stacks on the market. Like, the first one that sold was max cash stack instafill. It's not worth that now. The value of having it early is what gives it that value. And if you think that people are gonna grind Tet Debos and sell them for 100 bill forever, you're fucking faded. It's just not reality. And I don't know why you would want it to be reality. I would love to fucking slam some Debos together for 100 bill, don't get me wrong, but like, what's the fucking point? The armors are the last expensive thing that matters, and it's like, who cares if your gear devalues, man? What are you gonna do with your 150 bill? No. Let's say the Debos are still at 300. What are you gonna do with your 300 bill when you sell your pen Debo? Buy another fucking best in slot pen Debo? Like, what else are you gonna do? It's the best item in the game. Why are we crying? I don't know. I don't understand, like, why people are upset about gear devaluation. It doesn't make sense, bro. Like, I'm all for gatekeeping, bro. I'm like the #1 hater. I enjoy hating, but like, why does it matter if somebody else gets a Debo for 150 when you clicked yours? You've had a pen Debo this whole time, and they've been fucking getting their ass slammed in Guild League by you, because you had pen Debos. And you had pen Debos so you can start to branch out and get accuracy accessories and Tad Shurikens and slam Kaffers in them and do all of this shit that puts you at an advantage over the players who don't have a fucking pen Debo. Whatever, man. I think that there's a lot of very valid points of disappointment with the game, but I think there is more complaints by people who have played this game for 6 years. They've realized they've fucking spent their entire life playing this game instead of, you know, progressing their life, and they're mad at the creators of the game for nothing, and they're trying to send hate. I definitely think the node war system should be fixed. I'm not going to argue with that point. I think there's a lot of things for PvP specifically that could be done better. But I think that there's a lot of complaints by people who don't even want the things that they're asking for. Like, people complain about PvP and then don't do it. So, I don't know. Thanks.